a new temple. It's in the little passage in John where at the foot of the cross you've got the mother and the beloved disciple. When Jesus saw his mother and the disciple whom he loved standing there, he said to his mother, "Woman, behold your son." Then he said to the disciple, "Behold your mother." Now that's the phrase also associated with this place. Out on the terrace, you'll see one of the classrooms is called Ecce Homo. Behold your mother. And then we read, and from that hour the disciple took her to his own. Now the text doesn't say took her to his own home. So we can't hear this phrase as if Jesus, at this high point of the gospel, is simply looking down and saying, "Would you take care of me, Mum?" This is the high point of the gospel. I'll show you in a moment where that phrase is used earlier in the gospel. But it should read, and from that moment the disciple took her to his own, eis ta idia. Now, just to recall where we are, we're set within a garden. We've got the cross in the middle of the garden. We've got the woman who's only ever called woman and mother. We're in a moment of recreation or rebuilding. Now, how does this happen? If I can just change the image slightly. When Jesus says the words, "Woman, behold your son," in effect, he changes the relationship. From now on, this man becomes son to the woman, the mother of Jesus. But if I draw another arrow between the woman and Jesus, that relationship is also mother and son. And if I now join up the third arrow, what now is the relationship between the disciple and Jesus? What's that new relationship? From now on, disciples become children. They're sharing Jesus' own sonship. Disciples are now brothers and sisters to Jesus because they have the same mother. So when we complete the triangle, disciples are now brother and sister to Jesus. And if they're brothers and sisters of Jesus, they are therefore children of God. So this is a highly important scene. This is the heart of John's theology. This is the moment when what was promised in the prologue about disciples becoming children of God, this is where it happens, in that change of relationship between the mother and disciple. The disciple then becomes brother or sister to Jesus and therefore a child of God. So we'll look at this phrase, this little scene at the foot of the cross. When Jesus saw his mother and the disciple whom he loved standing near, he said to his mother, "Woman, behold your son." Then he said to the disciple, "Behold your mother." That phrase in Latin, Ecce Homo. And from that hour the disciple took her to his own, eis ta idia. Now that phrase was used in the prologue, back in chapter 1, verse 12. He came to his own, eis ta idia. And listen to what happens. His own did not receive him, but those who did receive him, he gave them the power to become the children of God. The use of that phrase, to his own, or eis ta idia, forms what's called an inclusio, back in chapter 1 and now here at the cross. So the two passages relate to one another. And the phrase in chapter 1, he gave them the power to become children of God, is now fulfilled at the cross, when the disciple becomes a child of God. So that's how that inclusio works, and why that phrase, eista idea, is important, but means far more than just, would you look after me, mother? After this scene is where we get the announcement that the work of creation is finished. This is what it says. After this, Jesus, knowing that all was now finished, said, I thirst. They put wine or vinegar on a hyssop branch, they give it to Jesus to drink, and then he announces, as was announced in Genesis, it is finished. He bowed his head and gave down the Spirit. And notice in John, it's the Spirit. It's not simply saying Jesus died. He gave up his Spirit. No, this is the moment when the Spirit is given down to that small group of disciples at the foot of the cross. And immediately after that, it's the Sabbath day. So if you have a look at your text, since it was a day of preparation, the Jews did not want the bodies left on the cross during the Sabbath, especially because that Sabbath was a great Sabbath. So this is the announcement that the first creation, that work has been finished. And now there is a new creation. This is John's theology of the cross. And it all happens through this transfer of the meaning of what a disciple is. The transfer, the change of relationship. Woman, behold your son. And in the disciple becoming son to the mother of Jesus, the disciple becomes one of the children of God. Immediately after this, we get the scene in John where one of the soldiers pierces the side of Jesus and out flows blood and water. Now that imagery of blood and water is actually a birthing image. Just as a child is born with the breaking of a mother's water and blood. So it's really a birthing image, and the fathers of the church picked that up and spoke of the church being born from the side of Jesus, just as Eve was born from the side of Adam. We've also got in John 20, after the resurrection, Jesus comes to Mary Magdalene, and Mary Magdalene is told, do not hold me, I have not yet ascended to my Father. Go to my brothers and sisters. Not go to my disciples, but now go to my brothers and sisters and say to them, I am ascending to my Father and your Father. So here Jesus confirms in the resurrection what had happened at the cross. Disciples are now brothers and sisters to Jesus and therefore children of God. In becoming children of God, they're drawn into the Father's household. They become members of the Father's house. So carrying that double meaning of the Father's house as meaning both the household, the people, and the temple, this is how the new temple is built from the cross. Not a building, but a temple of living people drawn into Jesus' own relationship with God. This is why the foot washing is such an important scene. It's the welcome into the Father's house, meaning the temple, and also the Father's household, meaning the relationship. The foot washing is the great symbol in John's Gospel of Jesus giving his life, the laying down of his life. It's a model of love unto death. It's also a model of the relationships that need to exist within the household. as we are drawn into the communion of the Divine Trinity, we too need to be models of that communion. That's why Jesus' only commandment is the commandment, love one another. So the foot washing, in a sense, acts out, symbolises, is a symbolic gesture of the meaning of the Johannine crucifixion. Just as in the Synoptic Gospels, the Eucharistic narrative has much the same function. So just to bring things together, when we are in this place, Ecce Homo, we're in a place where we've got the words, Ecce Mater Tua, behold your mother, and behold the man. These two phrases are the heart of the Johannine Gospel. So that's why it's been such a delight for me to be here. It's as if I'm living, walking, talking within the whole theology of John's Gospel. It's a different theology. It's not a theology of atonement, so much as a theology of new creation. And I think it's a theology that our world today could well respond to very positively.